Now joining us is Kirsten Kennedy. She's running for Congress in Minnesota's 8th District. Kirsten, welcome to Rebel Headquarters.
Thank you so much, Cenk. I just want you to know, besides John Lewis, you are my most exciting person I've met in the past 2 years.
Wow, okay, thank you, I appreciate that. It's very, very kind of you. So let's talk about your race a little bit. So you have the incumbent that's leaving to run for, I think, another office.
Governor.
Yep.
Correct, Lieutenant Governor.
And so what's the state of the primary right now? How many folks are in it, and are you the most progressive of those candidates?
The state of the primary right now is we have 5 candidates in the race, so 4 additional candidates. And I do consider myself the most progressive candidate. I also am pragmatic, but I think we have some issues in our district, in our country, and I think it would be really nice to have Congress not have just 90% women serving.
In terms of your record, you were and are mayor of North Branch, right?
That's correct.
And so this is your second term. So a lot of folks at home have no idea what North Branch is, obviously. Okay,
right.
So tell us about
that's correct.
Right, tell us about that town and then your record there.
Okay, so North Branch is directly an hour north of Minneapolis-St. Paul on the way to Duluth on 35W. We have 2 major, we have 35W and then we have Highway 95. So we are a great commerce city. We have 37 square acres in our city. And so we are growing. And along with the rest of my 27,000 mile district that I'm campaigning for, we have everything that everyone else has. We have businesses that can't find workers. We have no affordable housing. We have people working 2 and 3 jobs that can't put a roof over their heads or put food on the table. We have people going bankrupt because of health insurance. And most importantly, we are getting older, as with most America, and we have a problem with our seniors getting access to health care and their basic needs met because we do not have good transportation in our area. So as far as mayor, I'm a single mom with 5 kids. I started college at 45 and graduated at 52, and I actually got into community organizing, first to save our police department from being contracted out, and then working on a couple of other issues around seniors and environment. And then I decided to run for office because I was tired of corruption and not having a walkable, bikeable, healthy community to live in. And so I ran as a progressive woman in a very conservative Tea Party stronghold, and I won. And it was really rough the first 2 years because it was 3-2, and I was not in the majority. And during our last election cycle, we were able to find progressive candidates, and now we're a 4-1 council. And we've had more growth, and we have 2 affordable housing projects coming in for the first time in over 15 years.
So when you ran first, did you have less money than the people you were running against?
Yes. I had probably, let's say $100, and they probably had 10, 15,000.
Wow, so how'd you win? How'd you pull that off?
So I was very creative. I have 5 kids. We bought just 10 signs, and we would have people hold them up and go take pictures for people that supported me. And it turned into this social media campaign. We would go out and do creative things besides knocking on thousands of doors. We would go out and do some dance parties holding up signs with my kids and my nephews that were visiting. And most importantly, I'm in my community. So I am at community events, coach Special Olympics, am very active. And I also noticed that there were a lot of people running for office that I never saw in my community until it was election time. And so I wanted to change that, and we did.
Wow, you won an election with $100. Okay, I'm pretty sure we could raise you a little bit more than that right now. So you know what, let me give the links right now. VoteKirsten.com, and then you can see, of course, VoteKirsten.com/volunteer and /donate. And here's what your opponents should not do, apparently. Underestimate you. So that's a great story. I love how you won that last race. So let's talk about this race. So how are you financing the race here, and what's your situation with volunteers?
So my whole campaign team are volunteers. Sometimes we use our donations and our campaign finances to pay for gas, to get people around. I have a campaign manager that was actually a tracker for the DCCC and then volunteered for me on her off time. And while I was on a trip to Cuba, the DCCC called and told her she had to choose between volunteering for me or her job. She gave up her job to volunteer for me. So I am very committed to raising money so that I have a single mom who has 4 kids that believed in me enough to quit her job.
Man, they use some hardball tactics. They really do to run progressives out. I have never seen this is literal. I've never seen the DCCC support the more progressive candidate. Never, not once. Every time they support the more conservative candidate, and sometimes using thuggish tactics to do so. I mean, if I wasn't rooting for you before, Kirsten, man, with those 2 stories, I certainly am now. All right, so you've got some things on your planks that make sense to me. You talked about you've got a lot of older voters in the area. So real quick, what do you want to do to protect Social Security? Because a lot of times they'll say, "Oh, do you have a practical plan?" It's such a nonsense thing to ask because the Republicans are the least practical people on earth. All they do is just give money to the rich and corporations and destroy our budgets. I don't know what's practical about that. But anyway, what's your plan for Social Security?
So it's not practical. And I think first we have to have an honest moment with ourselves that before 2011, 80% of bills were done in open session, which means there was debate, there was testimony, it was well thought out. There weren't just bills being put on, right? Bills that were going to be voted on that no one's read. Now less than 5% is voted that way. I think first we have to work towards getting to 80, 90%. I think that we can work towards it by honestly taking money out of politics, and I would love to see Citizens United overturned, but we can take some steps. We can start saying, just like race car drivers, you have to publicly put out who funds you. And then we have to hold people accountable for that. And so while every candidate I know says we want money out of politics, I can't get national organizations to actually consider me viable until I have $250,000, $500,000 in the bank.
Yeah.
That's how we can start.
Yeah, no, I think that unfortunately the media aids and abets that system of corruption unwittingly, because they say if you raise a lot of money from corporations, then you're legitimate. If you didn't, you're not legitimate. And then the DCCC and the Democratic Party come in and they also aid and abet the system of corruption. And they reward the people who are the most corrupt and punish the people who are the least corrupt. And free media makes a giant amount of difference. And so, especially if you haven't raised that money. So I understand that completely. Specifically on Social Security though, would you raise the cap?
I would raise the cap, but most importantly, one of the things is we have to make sure that it's protected and strengthened all along the way. And we have to make sure that the highest earners, I'm talking the 2%, are paying their fair share. Once again, it seems like, and I would argue we don't even have a middle class in the United States. We have the ultra rich, the 2%, and then we have the working poor. And then we have abject poverty on top of that. And so I absolutely think we have to take a look at it, but it takes political will, and we have to have a moral economy that takes those things into consideration. And I think we can do it. We just have to vote for progressives, and we have to vote in people that actually have a plan to work together to make that happen. And so I do. I say let's reverse the great tax break that gave $1 trillion to that 2%. And I say let's start restructuring our economy, which, by the way, that tax break would have paid for half of the ACA, half of it. And so if we go back and start talking about that and work on having a moral economy, which will take a complete restructuring, then we can live in an America that I believe in.
All right, one more time, votekirsten.com is the website. Kirsten Kennedy, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.